the early 2000s, I had the privilege of spending 4 years traveling the globe, training pastors. We talked about two things. We talked about how to get your church into the 21st century, and we also talked about how to get your church to not be focused on each other and on who's already there, but to stay focused on the church that is not here yet, to get outside the walls. It was a great 4 years. It was a tiring 4 years. I got to visit 35 different countries during that stretch. And here's what I found. People are the same everywhere. Oh, the food changes, the look changes, the dress changes, the housing changes, but people are the same everywhere. Everyone that I met in those 4 years in those 35 countries shared an awakening. They shared the same journey. They shared the same longings. The longing to be loved, the longing to find purpose for your days, and the longing to find meaning in your pain were universal. God gave us that longing. Here's the series' big idea. Would you write it in? Our longing for love, for purpose, and for meaning in life can only be fulfilled in a relationship with Jesus Christ. For the next 5 weeks, we're going to talk about finding your way back to God. And for those of us who have never found our way fully to God, that'll be the start. For others of us who definitely have found God, but we're not quite as close to Him today as we once were, it's time to find our way back. And we're going to look at a series of 5 awakenings, 5 issues, if you will, 5 decisions. First one today is the awakening of longing. All of us have the same longing for love, for purpose, and for meaning in life. For the last 4 decades, thousands of people have found their way back to God through Westside Family Church. It started in our first campus over on Quivira Road nearly 40 years ago. And by the way, then Quivira was the western edge of town. Think about that. It continued a few years later at Trail Ridge Middle School, where we met for a couple of years. And then at the Box over on Monticello and Shawnee, when we thought we were in such a big place and had such a crowd in that tiny little commons in that setting. The journey of people finding their way back to God continued as it spilled out into a venue in the nearby shopping center, into La Petite Academy in that shopping center as well. And then a group of crazy pioneers went up to Speedway to start another place where people could find their way back to God. And those Speedwayers were faithful, and they gave birth to 3 ministries at Lansing State Prison, a church in minimum and in maximum and in medium security. We continue this journey today in 11 different locations and church plants around Kansas City. And then it began to spill out overseas. The journey back to God included orphans in India, in South Africa, in Thailand. It burst across the border into Laos, where today there are 130 church plants. And more Westsiders speak Lao today than Westsiders speak English. It has continued coming back to us here in Kansas City as we're now ministering into the downtown KCK area with Avenue of Life, with Hillcrest Transitional Housing, with so many places that we partner with. It's going to continue soon as we plant another church in Leavenworth. Is it about the churches? Is it about the plants? Is it about the sites? No. It's about one more person finding their way back to God. There are literally thousands of stories we could have shared with you today, but we want you to hear one story in her own words of a young lady who found her way back to God through Hillcrest Transitional Housing and a couple of Westsiders who cared enough to reach out for her. This is Abbeys Story.
I was adopted when I was 2 years old, and I had a lot of problems within the family. God was always in my life. My parents went to church, but I never fully understood anything about, like why I loved God or why should I. I left my house because my mom and I did not get along, and we had a lot of problems, and school just got too much, and I just didn't think I could do it. And so I left. I started stealing things from stores and selling weed and smoking, cigarettes and different things where I just, I started fighting. I didn't care about anything.
Hillcrest is such a good ministry. It's a neat feeling to see these kids come with nothing, and they have hurts and hang-ups and habits that they brought along with them, and see God move in their lives. And when we saw Westside was coming alongside to help the less fortunate down here in the inner city, it captured our hearts.
When I first met Abby, she was quiet and she didn't have self-confidence. And
I asked them, I said, "Do you guys get paid for this?" And they started laughing and said, "No, they don't. They do it for free." And so they share God's love with us each week.
We asked the kids, if they want to go to church periodically. And we don't always have takers, but we did this time, and Abby was all about it. She was ready to come, and so she said, yeah, she'd come, and that's exactly what happened. We came down to get Abby, and Abby's a little evangelist, and so we come to get Abby, and there's other kids coming with her, and so they all came with us.
It's kind of weird. It was definitely something I've never been to at the theater. It was different. But as I kept going and going, it was an amazing thing.
We were doing worship, and Jimmy started leading Amazing Grace, and Abby just completely lost it.
I just cried. I couldn't stay in there and deal with it, so I went out.
I'm sitting there praying, God, please bring somebody to minister to Abby while she's going through this.
And this lady came up to me. She asked me if I needed a prayer partner. And I kept thinking in my mind before this lady came, can you please just send someone, God? I need somebody. I need somebody to talk to me right now. Then someone came and talked to me. Miss Shirley came. She talked to me. She's been through some of the stuff I've been through.
Within 15 minutes later, the three boys looked over at me and said, we'd like to get water baptized. I said, we'll do it. We'll set it up. And they went forward, and they were just so excited afterwards. I just saw a new birth there.
And so right then and there, I knew in my head, I was thinking, God, I know you're it. I'm done trying to push you away. And I accepted him. I finally accepted him, and it awakened me. He loves me. Baptism, it will help me realize that I am forgiven, and it's washed away. All the past is washed away, and I can finally move forward with my life.
When we come down here and these kids do find their way back to God, we find our way even closer.
God's already down here working and moving these kids' lives. We just show up.
I feel like I'm finally free from my past. He never forgot me. No matter how many times I forgot him, he was always there.
That's the reason we do what we do. That's the reason we ask you to be generous and to give. That's the reason we ask you to be sacrificial and to serve. That's the reason we ask you to invite your friends. Abby and 5 of her friends from Hillcrest Transition Housing are now following Jesus, now been baptized, now have found their way back to God. And in every setting, that's what it's about. Thousands have found their way back to God just like Abby. For the next 5 weeks, we're going to be talking about how does that happen. And I encourage you to be here all 5 weeks. Look this way. I know some of us don't have the habit of coming every week. It's kind of a, come 1 week and do something else 1 week. These 5 weeks are major important. It's the heartbeat of this church, helping others find their way back to God. Here's today's big ideas. We talk about the awakening of longing. Our longing to be loved, to find purpose and meaning, is given to us by God to lead us back to Him. Now, some of you may not realize that. You know you're looking for love and you're looking for purpose and you're looking for meaning, especially in your pain, but you may not have ever thought about where did that desire come from? Where does that longing come from? It comes from God. He has hot-wired us to need love and purpose and meaning, and He's also hot-wired us where the only place we're going to find it is in Him. For all of us, our journey back to God was an awakening. Would you write that in? It was an awakening. Hey, I'm not going to find the love I'm looking for. I'll look to God. I'm not going to find my purpose. I'll look to God. I'm not going to find my answers, my meaning. I will look to God. It was an awakening to longing where one day something inside your soul said, there's got to be more. There has got to be more. Now, we've already covered each of these longings in introduction here, but let's talk about each one for a moment, because universally, every human being you ever meet is looking for these three things. Do you realize how empowered you will be to share Jesus with them if you know what they're looking for? First is the longing for love. The country song says, looking for love in all the wrong places. Yep, done that. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt and the scars. We've all done some of that. In fact, Americans believe in marriage, some of us in serial marriage. The record for the most marriages in the United States, you can look this up, is by a guy by the name of Glenn Wolfe. He was married 29 times. I am not making this stuff up. Look it up, 29 times. Mr. Wolfe's longest marriage was 7 years. His shortest was 19 days. And before we think, wow, that's just crazy, think about what you've done in your journey looking for love. When you were a small child, you looked for perfect, unconditional love in your family of origin, and you did not find perfect, unconditional love. So you started dating and thought you'd find it there, and that wasn't enough. So you decided, I'll get married. That will fix me. Anybody get fixed when you got married? Oh, no, now you just got two people going through that same longing. So you decide, I know what we need. We'll produce more people. We'll have kids. That will make life easy and calm and peaceful and loving. And then after going through the incredibly tough teenage years, you think, if I could just get them out of the house before I kill them, I'll discover love. And then it's just the two of you again, and it's still not enough. And then grandkids come along, and they come close, but it's not enough. And at some moment in life, if you are truly after unconditional, constant, unchanging love, you're going to look for it in God, because it's the only place you'll find it. There's a longing for purpose. Would you write that in your notes? We're all longing for purpose. Can I demonstrate it for you? Even as a little kid, you had a plan for what you were going to be when you grew up. Even as a little kid. I mean, I can remember my journey. If you got yours, sometimes it's multiple things. Sometimes you want to be one thing one year and one thing another and another. Share with your neighbor real quick what you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were a kid. Go ahead, tell somebody. Yeah, some of us are 40 and we're still figuring it out. Yeah. I remember what I wanted to be. The first thing I wanted to be was a fireman. I mean, I can remember driving my little metal fire truck when I was a kid that had pedals inside it and wearing my little fire hat. And then I wanted to be a policeman. Policeman, that's what I called them. And at one point I wanted to be a lawyer because I love to argue and I love to win. Where did that desire to be something when you grew up come from? Is it because you were a 5-year-old in need of a job? It's because you were a 5-year-old with a stack of bills you had to pay? No, we have a built-in need to count for something, to do something with our lives, to make a difference, to find purpose. Every human being is looking for love. Every human being is looking for purpose. And in 30, every one of us has a longing for meaning. Now, some of you are saying, well, isn't meaning a lot like purpose? No, it's different in this way. You're looking for meaning, especially in your pain, especially in your unanswered questions. Most of the unanswered questions start with the word why. Those also start at age 2 and 3 and continue through life. Why does this happen to me? Why my family? Why do I have to hurt? Why do I have to have this disease? Or they get bigger. Why is there suffering in the world? Why does a good God allow bad things to happen to good people? Why do the people I love have to die? Oh, those are legitimate questions. And you're not going to find any answers except in looking to God. He's created us with a longing for love. He's created us with a longing for purpose. He's created us with a longing for meaning. Now, write this in your notes. The problem is not that we have these longings. Those are good longings. God gave them to us. The problem is we seek to fulfill them on our own. That's the problem. I'm going to figure out how to be loved. I'm going to figure out my purpose. I am going to figure out the answers to the why questions. Good luck. Because mankind's been trying to fix itself for 2,000 years, when the answer has already been given to us. There's one particular story in the Gospel of Luke that both Christian and secular scholars regard as one of the best stories in all of literature. It's the story of the prodigal son. We're not going to read the whole story this week, but over the next 5 weeks, we will read a part of it each week. I want to read the first part this week, and then we'll look to see what Scripture says about our longing for love and purpose and meaning. There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the property, that is coming to me." And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. I want you to underline journey into a far country. Have you got that? Underline that. And then he squandered his wealth in wild living. Would you underline wild living? So you got journey into a far country, wild living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was hoping to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one would give him anything. Now look this way, guys. This is one of these stories that's good when we translate it to English, but it's got much more meaning when you understand the original culture into which it was spoken. The biggest insult that a son could give to his father in first century Mideast culture, biggest insult, was to ask for your inheritance early. Because in Mideast culture, sons did not have a choice about what they were going to be when they grew up. They were going to do whatever their father did. If your father was a carpenter, you were going to be a carpenter. Jesus even followed that tradition. If your father was a farmer, you were going to be a farmer. You were going to take over the family business. It was understood that the sons, from the time they finished school, would start working in the family business, and they had to start at the bottom and work their way up. They had to earn their way to leadership. And by the time they were middle-aged and their father was getting old, they'd begin taking over running the business, and the father would still help. And when the father would get sick or weak or just need to go slower in life as an old man, they would take care of their father and of the business. And you could not ask for your inheritance till your father had died, and it would then be divided among the sons. You had to earn it. This young man, I'm guessing he's about 20, is basically saying, hey, Dad, I don't want to earn it. I don't want to work for it. I don't want to stick around here and take orders from you. I don't want to take care of you when you're old and sick. Give me my part now, and I'm out of here. And before we condemn him, I've done the same thing. God, I don't want to have to earn a better living. I'd like you to just give it to me. God, I don't want to have to work my way up in this business. I just want to have it. God, I don't want to wait. I want it now. Here's what we've got to know. Most of us feel like life is not bringing us everything we hoped for or wanted or feel like we deserve. Most of us feel life is not bringing us everything. Have you said anything like, I don't deserve this lately, or I deserve better, or wow, when's it going to turn? When's the pain going to stop? God, what are you doing? Most of us feel like we are not getting everything out of life. Now look this way, guys. That feeling is from God. Some of you going, really? Oh, yeah. He wired you to need love and then made it where every human relationship you have will hurt and disappoint you. Sometimes. He wired you to need purpose and then made it where you have to include him in the purpose equation to be fulfilled in life. He wired you for meaning and then gave you a mind that can think of hundreds of why questions. So you'd have to look to him. Now, the young man in our story wanted his money, and then it says as soon as he got it, he left to go on a far journey to a faraway country. We often believe we have to leave where we are to find what we want. Oh, wow. Will that get you in trouble? We believe we have got to leave where we are to find what we want. Well, if I just leave this job, I'm going to find what I'm looking for in the next one. Do you know the problem with the next job? You're still there. Oh, if I could just leave this state and move to a different state, I'm going to find what I'm looking for. Some of us even moved to Missouri. If I could just leave this relationship, I'll find one that'll fulfill me. Really? The problem with leaving where I am to find what I'm looking for is everywhere I go, I'm there. And everywhere I go, I've got the same hole in my core being for love and for purpose and for meaning. So the question is, where are you going to go to satisfy your God-given longings? Where are you going to go? Some of us go and try wild living. The young man did that. How'd that work out for you? Some of us try out-of-bounds things and out-of-bounds relationships. We're all looking for love and purpose and meaning. But if those are God-given longings, I'm going to suggest you're only going to find the answers in finding your way back to God. And we'll give you a name today. You can look him up later. You may not have heard this name before. The name is Blaise Pascal. Blaise is spelled B-L-A-I-S-E. Cool name, I think. Blaise Pascal was a 16th century mathematician that was absolutely brilliant, a genius. And his field of study was mathematics. He actually gave us mathematical equations and theorems that we still use 5 centuries later. Blaise was amazing. He became a full committed Christ follower as an adult. And then he began to take his mathematics and apply them to his spiritual journey. Here's Pascal's challenge. History has recorded this for us. Pascal's own words. Make a bet that there's a God who loves you. Make a bet. Play the odds, he's saying. If you're right, you have everything to gain. If you're wrong, you have nothing to lose. Make a bet that God is real. Hey guys, every human being you have ever met or will ever meet has a hole in their soul. And they're looking for love and purpose and meaning to fill that hole. Some of them, many of them, have an S written in that hole. And the S stands for self. I can fix me. If that were true, we'd all be fixed. Some of us have an O written in that circle. If I can just please the significant others in my life, I'll feel loved and purposeful and I'll find meaning. What Pascal is saying is you better write a G in that space, because God is the only one that can fill that space in your soul. So there's a 30-day challenge that is part of finding your way back to God, and I'm going to invite every one of you to pray a simple prayer with me, whether you're on the internet, whether you're at our other 11 places around Kansas City, whether you're here at Lenexa, doesn't matter, in this room or the new guys over in the new South venue. Here's the 30-day challenge, the prayer I want you to pray. You ready? God, if you are real, make yourself real to me. God, if you're real, make yourself real. Now, some of you are going, I already know God is real. Then you pray, hey, God, I know you're real. Make yourself more real to me. Because he has got more love and more purpose and more meaning than any of us are experiencing. What would it be like to not have to run after love? What would it be like to not have to search continually for purpose? What would it be like to begin to find meaning in the midst of our pain? Here's the challenge in this 30 days of finding your way back to God. Let your longings for love and purpose and meaning leads you back to Jesus. You got two choices. They can drive you insane, or they can help you find your way back to God. Jesus, my prayer, the prayer of thousands of us around the globe today, is make yourself real to us. God, we know you're real. If you're real, make yourself real to me. Amen. Hey, I want to thank you for listening today. And if you're joining us here, particularly in now the North Sanctuary, that's what we're calling this room. South Sanctuary is the new one. You know, look around the room right now for a minute. Do you notice there's some empty space? Know why? Because there's 150 Westsiders right the other side of that wall. Do you know what that means? You could bring your friends. You don't have to say, hey, come check out my church, but don't come at 9:30 or 11, because there's no room. You can bring your friends. I want to encourage you to do that. There are two other options today. One is, if you are not in a Finding Your Way Back to God group for the next 5 weeks, we're inviting every adult to be in one. You can sign up in the Commons today. Up at Speedway, they're able to sign up in the lobby. If you're online, you can hit that button and sign up for a group as well. And the second thing I want to invite you to, next Sunday afternoon is our Family Fun Fest. If you have never done this at Westside, you have missed one of the most fun afternoons we have all year. Weather's supposed to be beautiful. From noon till 4 here at Lenexa, there'll be rides, there'll be bounce houses, there'll be inflatables, there'll be your favorite food trucks, all that good healthy stuff from all over Kansas City, and it's free. The cool part is that the admission is free. It's a great time to bring a friend and let them have a great experience at Westside Family Church. Westsiders, thank you for your generosity. Thank you for helping thousands find their way back to God. Let's keep doing it. God bless you. See you next week. By the way, the new facilities are open if you want to roam through. Go check them out.